Hi boys and girls, welcome back to Mr. Brakefield Reads. It is Friday, which would usually mean we would share a picture book together. But today we're going to do something slightly different. We're going to write a 5-sentence story, and I guarantee to you that this is going to be very, very easy to do. I would also like to see mums and dads taking the challenge of writing a 5-sentence story as well. I'm going to explain everything to you. I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to do. So listen very carefully and watch even more carefully, because we're going to start now. Okay, as we know in a story, there are 5 main elements. Okay, 5 main elements. First is the opening, where we introduce our characters, introduce setting, so where the characters are. Then we start to build up the story. We might have some clues about those characters or things that are happening to them, so events. We start to build up the excitement. We want people who are reading our story to want to read on. Okay? Then we introduce a problem or a dilemma. There might be a disagreement. Something goes wrong. Eventually, the problem is solved. There's a resolution. And then we get to our ending, which could be a happy ending. It might be a sad ending. But this is the basic structure of our story, and this is what we're going to do today. We're going to write an opening, build-up, problem, resolution, and ending. We're going to write 1 sentence for each of those parts, and I'm going to help you every single step of the way. So, the opening. So, as you'll see, there are 4 possible starters, sentence starters, and you're going to choose one of those. Now, it's entirely up to you which one you choose. I would look at them, I'm going to read them out in a moment, but I would think about which is your favourite, which one do you particularly like. Now, when we start writing stories, we start off usually when we're really, really young, when we're in our reception year, maybe year 1, even in year 2, we might be tempted to just use words like once upon a time, or one sunny day, or one dark night. But then we start to read a little more widely, and we see that actually lots of lots of stories start in very different ways. And so this activity is going to help us think about different ways of starting sentences and just exploring and practicing different ways of starting sentences. So we've got 4 possible choices, and you've got to choose one of these. On a dark and stormy night, at a minute past midnight, at the top of a very tall mountain, somewhere in deepest space. So you choose one of those, and what you're going to do then is you're going to introduce your character somehow in the rest of that sentence. So this will be a starter for your sentence, and then you'll complete the sentence. Now, I went straight for the 3rd opening there, at the top of a very tall mountain. And I thought about it, and I thought about my character, and I thought straight away that I wanted an ogre at the top of that very tall mountain. And I didn't really think too much more about what was going to happen after that. I just knew it was going to be an ogre, and I thought I would call him Horace. And so this is what I came. At the top of a very tall mountain, there lived an ogre named Horace, with a long, crooked nose and short, wonky teeth. So really briefly, what I did there is I've introduced my character. I have even gone to the lengths of describing him as well. Very simply, 2 things I chose about him, the nose and his teeth, that were particularly distinctive, using 2 adjectives to describe each of those parts of him. And that was it. So that's my opening sentence. Now, moving on to the build-up. So, again, with the build-up, you've got 4 possible choices, and you do have to choose one of these. This time, you might think about where you want your story to go and how you've started your story. So what opener you chose for your story, and which of these 4 is going to fit better. So some of them you might think, I'm not sure. Very soon, for me, I don't think really works, because I never give any impression of what time it was in that opening, and so now I'm going to reject that one. I can't use very soon. One cold morning I could use. The very next morning I could use, possibly, but again, we don't know when this is. And after breakfast, that might work. But I'm going to choose one cold morning. what I've done, which you can do, is I have changed it very slightly. So I've just added a word. I thought it could do with one more adjective. And you'll see what that is in a moment. Okay. But what I'm also thinking is, where is this story going to go? What's going to happen? And so I thought about what could happen, and I thought about this cave. This something happening in this cave, something happening to his home, and I thought that the ogre could wake up one cold morning and find that there is water everywhere. Okay, so what's happened we don't know yet, but we'll find out soon. So the build-up, one freezing cold morning. So you see I've changed it slightly. I've just said freezing cold. So it hasn't changed the meaning of that opener, but I've just added a word. So one freezing cold morning, Horace awoke to find his cave was filled almost to the ceiling with water. So now we're starting to build things up. That's the event. Something has happened. But where are we going with it? The problem. Again, you've got 4 possible choices there, and you can choose any one of those 4. Think again about what fits particularly for your story. You might have a choice of 2 or 3, perhaps. You might even have a choice of all 4. They might all fit. For me, I thought about, unfortunately, that would work, and unexpectedly, that would work too. In the blink of an eye, yep, something else might happen there. In the blink of an eye. What could happen? In the blink of an eye, a fairy emerged from the doorway. I don't know. Lots of things. But I'm going to go with the trouble was, because I want to explain why this water was in his cave. And the reason was because the night before there was an absolute downpour of rain, and the rainwater basically flooded his cave. So this is what I got. The trouble was, it had rained all night, and the rainwater had flooded his home. So I've chosen home there specifically because I don't want to use the word cave again. I know I'm going to probably use that a little bit later, perhaps, but his cave is his home. So that's why I chose to use that. So, the resolution. How is this going to be solved? Well, again, we've got 4 choices. Luckily, with all his or her strength, without hesitating, and thankfully. So, again, you're going to think about which one's going to work with your story so far, and or which one you like best. For me, I liked without hesitating because I thought, if he's going to solve this problem, he's going to have to act quickly. He can't wait around. Things have got to be dealt with immediately. All right? With all his strength might have worked there as well, and luckily and thankfully could have worked. But without hesitating is what I've chosen. And this is what I got to. Without hesitating, Horace grabbed a large bucket from under the sink and began emptying the water out into the valley below. So, that's the resolution, how he's solving the problem. We're going to move on then now to the ending. The ending. So we could use finally, at long last, after a while, eventually. So again, it's about choosing one of those. And once you've chosen it, then you continue your sentence. Let's see what I got to. I chose eventually. Eventually, Horace managed to move all the water out of his cave, and in no time, his home was warm and dry again. So let's just have a quick look at the whole story. This is a 5-sentence story. At the top of a very tall mountain, there lived an ogre named Horace, with a long, crooked nose and short, wonky teeth. One freezing cold morning, Horace awoke to find his cave was filled almost to the ceiling with water. The trouble was, it had rained all night, and the rainwater had flooded his home. Without hesitating, Horace grabbed a large bucket from under the sink and began emptying the water out into the valley below. Eventually, Horace managed to move all the water out of his cave, and in no time, his home was warm and dry again. So there you go. Honestly, it didn't take any more than 5 minutes to do that. Now, I want you to have a go. You might need to go back over the video and pause at different points, but don't forget you can only choose the starters that are there in front of you. If you want to change them slightly by adding a word, like I did with the word freezing, to add to cold, to make freezing cold, one freezing cold morning, that's fine. But you can't just choose your own starters. Then what I'd say is, once you've done it, have another go. Maybe change your story altogether. Think about a different character. Choose some different starters. Now, if you then have done that maybe once or twice, so you've done two different 5-sentence stories, well, you could do more, but next time, choose your own starters. Or maybe get your mums and dads to choose your starters for you. And they could say, right, okay, I'm going to ask you to write an opening for your story, and you can choose this, or this. And you maybe have 3 or 4 choices. But either way, it's a really good way of getting a fairly quick story, building up your stamina, meaning you've got to sit and write a story from the beginning to the end, and each part of the story is really clear because you're keeping in mind that you've got to have the opener, the build-up, the problem, the resolution, and the ending. You don't miss any of those parts out. So there we go. Good luck. And if you've got any really good stories that you want to send in to me, then please do it. 5 minutes is all you need for a 5-sentence story. Happy reading and happy writing. See you on Sunday.